Right. Good morning, everyone. I declare this meeting of the Earthquake Recovery Committee of the Whole open, and I welcome all of the guests who have come to participate in this, I think quite historic meeting, the last, hopefully, of the Earthquake Recovery Committee of the Whole meeting. So I thought I'd just start with a couple of comments. When my husband woke me this morning, he did so by accident, but it was just after 4:30. I turned over to go back to sleep and tried to, but then I suddenly realised the significance of being awake at that time today. I remember vividly the shock of suddenly being awake 4 years ago. And I remember being out of bed, but I don't remember getting out of bed. Robbie said I yelled earthquake, but I don't remember doing that either. I knew I wanted to get out of the house, and every single civil defence lesson that I had learned completely escaped me, gone in an instant. I remember being tossed from side to side as we tried to run down the stairs, and I remember reaching the front door when the house stopped shaking. Like so many others, I had absolutely no idea what lay ahead. It was the beginning of a sequence of events that changed my life and the lives of so many others forever. I didn't give up going back to sleep this morning, but my mind kept drifting through the past 4 years and what I was going to say this morning. I actually drove through Bexley on my way here. There's a lot of symbolism about today's meeting. Obviously, foremost is the location. We have intentionally come as a council to the east. Given the impact the earthquakes have had on communities surrounding Greater New Brighton from the north to the south, it seemed fitting to hold this final Earthquake Recovery Committee of the Whole here. The agenda is symbolic as well. It starts with a deputation from a group, Eastern Vision, which didn't exist 4 years ago. Eastern Vision is an example of the emergent groups that have taken a leadership role in our city. It has formed essentially as a catalyst for a conversation about the future of the East. The first of the three formal items is the location of the Eastern Recreation and Sports Centre, which is recommended to us by an advisory group and the Burwood Pegasus Community Board. The Eastern Recreation and Sports Centre has attracted a major philanthropic donation, which has signalled a new way for funding facilities, which doesn't just commit to ratepayer dollars. The last is a paper that contains the second is a paper that the last is a paper that contains the rationale for and the makeup of a new committee structure that I'm proposing we adopt. This is designed to commit our governance structure to the resilient city model, which makes more sense as we seek to devolve decision-making to community boards and their communities and frees up councillor time to work on the long-term plan and engage more directly with the communities that they represent. The main reason, though, that we are here today is the second item, the adoption of a public engagement plan which will mark the beginning of a conversation with the community about the council's priorities and funding options for the next 10 years. I know that this is challenging for a lot of councillors. None of us expected to see such a significant set of financial challenges when we opened the books. I'm aware that the People's Choice Labour councillors are putting out a statement clarifying their position. I know there is considerable sympathy around the table for that position, but we have agreed to put all the options on the table and work together with our communities to find the right solutions. I felt really proud when you all agreed to allow me to speak for the council as a whole when we released the Cameron Partners report and signal that all the options would be considered. I think that what has set us apart as a council is how we are managing these challenging issues. So let me say to all of my colleagues, thank you. I'm confident that we'll make the right choices, and this initial engagement with our city will open the door to a much better understanding of the choices that we have and a real sense of ownership of the decisions that we ultimately have to make. We're also taking the opportunity to give the green light to several $1 million worth of work. It's been left out of my notes here. That will see swimming pools and libraries and other facilities progressively restored to communities over the coming months. We have signed off on these facilities so council staff can get on with the job, draw up the plans, call for expressions of interest and look to the range of funding models that exist. The important message today is something I learned from an informal meeting with local advisory groups last weekend here in Brighton, and I want to thank them for allowing me the opportunity to develop that understanding. Because the council has established a betterment fund, people think that we have money allocated. It is all borrowing. It is nothing more than a borrowing facility. My mistake around the Capital Endowment Fund, which is a fund set aside from the proceeds of business sold by Orion a number of years ago, is that we have borrowed from it ourselves as a council. So my clever plan of spending some of the money set aside for that rainy day only committed us to more borrowing. But what we are announcing today is that we can't wait for the insurances to be settled or the horizontal infrastructure expenditure to be resolved. Appropriately, all our council business today is focused on the future, on getting back on our feet as a city and as communities, and for the council, the focus is on opening ourselves to new ways of doing things. Significantly, these changes are also beginning to take shape at a governance level with the Prime Minister's announcement of changes to Sarah's structure and the beginning of a deliberate move towards transition, which will eventually lead to the full restoration of democracy in this city. I opened a conference for 400 people this morning before I came here, ironically for project managers. And I acknowledged how important that message was that we were open for business as a city. I thought I would conclude my opening comments today by repeating something I said to them. I will never forget being shaken awake at 4:35 a.m. not knowing what would lie ahead. From liquefaction to lateral spread and from EQC to PMOs, I was introduced to words and acronyms I knew nothing about before. I tell people that I'm not the same person I was back then. I have been inspired by the ability of communities to come together in a time of crisis. I have been humbled by the generosity of people, be they neighbours or multi-millionaire philanthropists living half a world away. And I have been encouraged by people who have willingly shared their knowledge and expertise with Christchurch as we recover and rebuild. Encouraged, humbled and inspired, 3 words that describe how I feel about being here today. Thank you. So I'd like to now invite Eastern Vision to come forward to make a deputation.
Can I just say a couple of words before we do that?
Certainly.
Just on behalf of my colleague Glenn, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Burwood-Pegasus ward and particularly to this venue. We like to think it's our part of paradise, and I'd like particularly some of the staff and others to note there is no northeasterly this morning. There never is at this time of the day, and most people come to this side of town at the wrong time of the day when there is a bit of a wind. I hope you all travelled out here and avoided some of our roads and didn't get lost either in potholes or misdirections, and noted on the way what sort of potential there is for, enormous potential there is for development out this side of town. As Leanne has alluded to, it's a very special day for the eastern suburbs, a number of significant announcements, and I believe significant steps forward for this side of the town, for which we are looking forward to with great interest. For me, it's quite a historic personal thing. My great-grandfather and grandfather were both members of the New Brighton Borough Council, and to have a council meeting out here is something special for me. So thank you for coming out here today. My colleagues on the other side of the room have probably got the best view. And I think it's a great idea that we have come out here, and I think we should be doing it in other parts of the city as well. And finally, can I just acknowledge my colleague here today. Happy birthday, Glenn.
Oh, yeah. And I actually think that it's appropriate that I invite the birthday boy to say a couple of words as well. I mean, it is both of you that represent the Burwood Pegasus ward at this table, and I think it is appropriate to invite you.
All right.
Rainbow.
Okay. Thank you, Leanne, and thank you, David, my colleague, for those birthday wishes. It's good to be here today in the Burwood Pegasus ward, and we're delighted that we're going to be making these decisions today. Obviously, we've been through a lot and still going through a lot, and I hope that you'll come away today with a sense of joy and a bit more hope. That I really hope this will give the ward a big lift when we come to the pool decision, especially today. So great to be here, and thank you for the birthday wishes.
Thank you. Right.